Welcome to Culture Connect. This evening's guest is an amazing documentary photographer, artist, and also publisher. Welcome, Luis Delgado.
Hello, good evening. Good evening.
You have a really interesting cultural background, which is kind of, you draw from elements of that for your art. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Oh, well, you know, the first, I guess, I was born in Mexico City and in an English-speaking home. My mom was from Texas, my parents met in Texas, then came to Mexico. And then I went to a French school, then I went to a British school, and then I moved up here in '82 in San Francisco. So that is, out of all those places and all those cultures, it's something that I draw from. And the advantage of being able to speak several languages and knowing how to read different kind of dictionaries has always been helpful.
And also, when you have that kind of incredible background and education also, you're drawing from symbols and ideas and kind of the whole thing about languages, and like each language has a certain poetic, symbolic way of saying something. And as a photographer, how did that play into your documentary?
Well, at first, as a documentarian, I was of the school where you didn't change the situation. You were just there to document. But it wasn't until later that I got tired of doing that and started discovering the ability to attach words to pictures and adding different levels of reading to a picture. You know.
So let's take a look at some of your early work, Luis.
Correct, yeah. Well, that was my first one was 1975 in the Sierra Totonaca area of Mexico, yeah, which is portrait collections of Sierra Totonaca Indians, which I did with Ted Gardner. And I made this into a book. It's a very small village. Why we had to walk in for a whole day, and we did the photographs. And the idea there was just to describe the people, and it's about portraiture, a very, very simple way. And then that was the root of what I used to do. I worked as an archaeologist in documentation and archaeology, and then I got hired to work for a government office that did that.
That did archaeological
and anthropological and ethnographic work.
Wow.
But.
And then you moved from the portrait collection, and then the next series of photographs are from Capital Crimes, I believe?
Well, that was sort of when I started doing my symbology stuff. Capital Crimes, and that's a funny little project. In each one, there's 2 crimes and 2 punishments. There's 4 sets, and it's based on a family story. And it was a way to do a piece of work where people would think, dialogue and think about it.
And so you decided to shoot this in series to tell the story.
Yeah, I set up, and it's using symbols, symbology, and it's staged. It's completely staged, yes.
And can you quickly tell that story of how you were inspired?
Well, it sort of inspired me because my mother, who was in Texas in the 30s, she was in high school, and she went to a debating society, what do they call them, rally or competition. And it was at Huntsville, where the main penitentiary is. And part of the prizes or the awareness, the education, was to walk through the penitentiary and to be able to go into the execution room and to sit on the electric chair, which in those days is still known as Old Sparky.
Wow.
And that was something that I had thought about, been told about, and wanted to illustrate.
So let's come back to the studio so we can have a chance to talk more about your more recent pieces and kind of what was the segue? Was Capital Crimes the segue?
Really, the next piece that you're going to see, which is the Loteria, the tarot deck, that was really the seminal piece of where things changed. I did not like to do photographs of people. And then, it's way out of sequence, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. You can start talking. But we can edit it.
Yeah. Well, okay, this is Unfathomable Humanity, which is I did under the alias Lis Libertus, which it's much later work of mine, where I researched and did a bunch of work on the violence of man to man.
Wow.
You know, this one's called Black Ravens, and it is all the people who work for the NKVD, which turned into the KGB, which fed the gulag of people.
Wow.
All right, we can go to the next one.
When you started appropriating photographs, how did that feel? Because you went
Well, this was the beginning of the electronic age, you know. Before I would sort of appropriate photographs because after I did the documentary work, I wanted to focus on symbols, which were mostly symbols of man and done by man, which mostly were carved or graffitis or paintings or different things like that. Once the computer age started and I could go online, I was able to acquire a tremendous vocabulary. It's just like a scrapbook that most artists have. My scrapbook is a drive that is 500 gigabytes of images that I've collected.
Wow.
And I use those as reference. Sometimes I mix them, I alter them, and so far I haven't been caught.
And your work is in a lot of major collections,
That is
too.
true, yeah.
Who are some of the...
Well, locally, Stanford has most of my artist books. I believe we're on number 15. The museum in San Francisco, Houston, and a couple other places, you know, and private collectors.
And you've also exhibited around the world.
Around the world, that's
Yeah.
true. Argentina.
Asia?
The oddest one was East Germany.
Oh, wow. That is pretty strange.
That was an odd one, yeah.
So, and you were, let's bring up the next series of pictures.
Ah, yes. Now, this is Power Ties. This is based on some photographs I did in Houston, where I've been going since 1994 to a festival that Wendy Waters and Fred Baldwin started. It's called PhotoFest, and it's a biennale, and they bring photographers to meet curators, collectors, and stuff. And I found these colossal heads of American presidents, and I made a little reflection on that with a poem by Shelley called Ozymandias. And you open up the book, the bottom of there is a mirror, and you can see yourself amongst all these eggheads.
Huh, that's interesting. And so this is a kind of a continuation of this whole new period for you. And then you got into
Malulu Editions, yes.
Editions.
Through a piece of work that I did was the Loteria was my first artist book. But when I did it, it wasn't, I didn't know about the world of artist books. And a man named Steve Woodall said, it's a whole bunch of, it's a collection of photographs that are titled photographs, and they were put into a box. And he said, this is an artist book. And I said, oh, okay. So that was that, and went to a show in New York, and that gave me the impetus to keep on doing more work, because like this allows me to bridge several markets, not only the work for the walls, but this other collectors people who collect artist books and institutions who collect artist books.
And also when you look at the the photographs or the constructions or the narrative photographs, the collages, in a book form, it becomes a whole different thing.
That is the advantage. That's a nice thing, and that's what I really like now is I'm doing not only just photographs, I'm doing narratives, I'm doing storytelling, using visual elements and as well as words.
And let's take a look at the next.
This is from 47 Diaries. This is a collection of diaries that I was able to be able to be placed at Stanford Library. They're diaries of Ruth Troiler, a woman who was born in Germany, had to leave, went to Luxembourg, then went to Lisbon, and with her husband, they ran an underground railroad. They were taking British flyers out, British and American flyers out. But what was interesting, she asked me if I could find a way she could house this, and I was able to help her and get them into Stanford. 47 Diaries were the first lot that came to my house. They're from 1929 to 2009. To the day, blind, she still writes.
Wow.
And occasionally I get another one and gets placed. And this one just got collected by Stanford.
And this is the same piece?
This same piece, this is her doodles. There's 47 diaries, papers, talks. She was a philosopher. There's her philosophy talks. She had a doctorate in economics. On the left-hand side is a talk she did on oil in Venezuela. On the right-hand side are a whole bunch of cassettes. And she was also a doctorate in philosophy. So you'll find a whole bunch of things. There's a general view. The book is pretty large, 20 by 24, 64 pages.
Wow. And this is, I mean, it seems like very profound because now you're kind of an archaeologist again in a certain way.
Archivist, archaeologist, curious person. That's how I like. I'm always curious, I'm always listening. And there's a lot of times where I draw from things, from my stories and other people's stories. Here's Loteria. This is from the original conceptual piece of work, where it's a good photograph. There's no people in them. The base was it had to be a very good photograph, and then through the use of a word, I was able to achieve readings which took you to 2 or 3 different levels. In this case, it's destiny. We can go to the next one. And we'll see. Oh, yeah, this is a tarot deck. And there's 5 original attributes to which you draw to. There's the obstacles, the doubts, the desires, the aspirations, and then there's the vehicle. So you draw 1 to each one, and you can do a reading.
Wow.
Of sorts. That's the aspirations. Again, no live people. This is the desires. Students here from San Francisco. The vehicle, the way out, that's in Thailand. So they're using symbology from all over the place. Lucre. And let's see what else we got coming up. The word, that's a Barry McGee, graffiti that was on Mission Street a long time ago.
Oh.
The order. They're just gravity from Burning Man. So there are images that go from all over the place. Let's go to the next one. And that is the box that it came in. And that was the first artist book. That's from Singapore, I believe. And let me see what else comes up. Institutions. So there's all these things that are, I tried to find things that were strong. Hell hath no fury as the woman scorned, la mujer despechada. That's St. John the Baptist. Friendship. So there are these concepts that you can play against each other, and I can give you a little reading. Hearth and Home. Valencia Street.
Well, that was an amazing series.
That is a good piece. Still live, still a lot of fun.
And that was really the turning point.
That was 96. Yeah, that was 96. That was a big turning point on what I'm doing now. I believe you got one more series up there. Let's see what it. This is one of my latest books. It's called I Sing for Bread. I started writing poetry for it. This is a general view. It's what I call the bifold structure that you can open up and you can read in different levels. So if we can go to the next page, you can see how it opens up and the pictures go across and you can read the book in different ways. I've enjoyed this one a lot. Older work, and I was able to bring it back together. And that's the last one of that.
Well, Luis, this has been so wonderful. And Luis Delgado Qualtrough.
Qualtrough,
right?
yes.
I got it wrong in the beginning, so I wanted
That's
to
okay.
make sure I got it in the end. This was just a wonderful opportunity to get to know your work more, and I look forward to seeing these books
In live, yeah, they
person.
are different. It's hard to look at them on screen. You know, they don't quite do justice to them, but yeah.
And they can see the work on your website.
On my website, two websites, the Malulu Editions, malulu.com, which I have work from other people, and then mine, which is delgadophoto.com.
Well, thank you so much, Luis.
My pleasure.
And have a good evening, and we'll see you on our next show.
All right, thank you.
And you just keep talking to me.
Okay.
Because we're going to be...
We're going to be doing this.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to run some...
A whole thing.
Yeah.